Anyway, we're ready to introduce to you Kawelau Wright. She is an instructor of Hawaiian Studies at UH Manoa and the Department of Geography. She was a lecturer at UHMC, Maui College in Hawaiian Studies, and is a territorial land expert. I was going to give her what she discovered, but I think I don't want to steal your thunder, you know. I'll let you give what you discovered about what happened here on Maui in particular. And Keomoku Kapu will be shortly after that, and then we'll be wrapping up. So there's light here at the end of the tunnel, and let's welcome Kawelau Wright. Professor.
Aloha mai kako. I didn't realize I was up next. I was so enraptured by Kalekoa that I was all into it over there. I heard my name. I was like, oh, wait a minute. Hold on. I kane malawa o kanaloa o kai kapo, lua kapo, kolu kapo, ha kapo, lima kapo, no kapo, hiku kapo, valu kapo, eva kapo, umi kapo. Holo aku o ikai, no aku o ikai. Pau ko kapu awe lo no, a mama wano ai a umi. Aloha. Okay, so nothing like pressure of following Kalekoa, right? Sheesh. Yeah. Okay, so Wano Kawelau Kealoha, right? I am from Maui. I'm so happy to be back here. In fact, when we were driving up country, we hit the very beginning of Kula, and I started to cry in the car. My husband was like, "What's the matter?" I said, "Oh my gosh, I'm just so happy to be back." So mahalo, mahalo, mahalo for the invitation, and thank you so much to all the organizers of this amazing day. So let's see. I am a current PhD student at UH Manoa in the area of geography. I teach in both Hawaiian Studies and geography over at Manoa. And so I am so fortunate to be one of the people that gets to be part of this education process that Kalekoa and Willie both talked about, right? I get to see every day the light coming on in a bunch of my students, which is so gratifying. As far as my personal research goes, I was actually, this is kind of funny because my research actually goes back to Kalekoa and Kahele, actually. I was in Kalekoa's class, was getting my AA. I had just come back to school. And I was in his class, and he assigned us to look into, do sort of a place-based research project on where we were from. And I'm from the Upcountry area, and I also attended H.P. Baldwin High School, and which has significance. We'll hear about that a little bit. But so I'm in his class, and I knew that there was a bunch of other people in the class that were going to be covering the area that I grew up in. So I was like, oh, I just moved to Haiku. Maybe I should check out Haiku. He said I could totally do that. So that's what I did. I did all my research, put together this presentation. I was so proud of it. I get up to present, and I include these two sentences that I found in a book that was called Maui Remembers. And it said, Haiku was the home of an anomaly, an American colony in the early 1900s. I was like, an American colony? What? I grew up country. How did I not know about this? Is this for real? But the author of the book actually had taught at the at that time MCC, and was also wrote for the paper, I believe. In any event, I included in my presentation. Afterwards, Kumukalei comes up to me. He's like, "Oh, that was a great presentation, but you know that part about the American colony thing?" And I was like, "Oh no, is it not true?" Fast forward to when I'm looking. I go to Manoa. I have to fly back and forth every weekend because my husband and my son living here, get my bachelor's, get my master's, flying back and forth every weekend. And when it comes time to look for my master's thesis research topic, I was like, what should I do? What should I do? And it just sort of bubbled up. And in fact, I think Kalekoa, you were the one. What about that American colony thing? I was like, yeah, what about that? I wonder if it was real, right? So it's kind of interesting, though, when you talk about the erasure of our history, right? This is a prime example. I go to one of the archives on Oahu. I figure it had to have something to do with the missionary kids. So I go to the Mission Houses Museum, and I speak to the head librarian there, and she's like, oh, no, no, no. There's no such thing. What are you talking about? And I said, well, it was like, I think it was like a homestead or a colony. And she says, no, no, no. If it's a homestead, you're talking about Hawaiian homesteads. I'm like, no, actually, I think I'm talking about exactly the opposite of Hawaiian homesteads. I think I'm talking about homesteads for other people, like Americans. I sat there for 45 minutes after she kept telling me no. I sat there and I was like, okay, I'm not going to leave until I feel like my now is bugging me to leave. Sat there. She finally came up to me. She says, okay, how is it that you know about this? And I say, oh, from Gail Bartholomew's book. And she says, oh, Gail Bartholomew actually did an index to the Maui news for us. Would you like to take a look at it? I'm like, okay, sure. She brings it over and I say, okay, I know it's haiku. I know it's homesteads. I know it's called American Colony. This is all I know. Open up the index to the Maui News, and I find 25 articles about this American colony in haiku. Now, I've spoken to, I mean, really, it's kind of, it's super hurtful, right, to think that as a proud public school student that grew up on Maui, that and as somebody that's from upcountry, I had no idea what happened. I had no idea that this had happened. And to date, even after I've done all of this research, right? I've done probably 5 years worth of research, hundreds and hundreds of hours at all kinds of archives. I've learned all about it, but I still have yet to find one kupuna from the haiku area that says that they know about this. And it's just like, how can this be, right? How can this be? So that's my area of research, was this colony. No, I'm not calling it that, right? It was called that by the Maui News, actually. It's called an American colony. It took place, it was built in the Ahupua'a of Hamakualoa. Over 2,200 contiguous acres given to Americans exclusively. They were able to get this land for about anywhere between a third and a sixth of the appraised value. This was first-class agricultural lands. These homesteads, just to contextualize this, these homesteads, the reason that they do this, all of this happens right after the overthrow. Right after the overthrow, 1895, they changed the land laws. Those land laws allow for homesteading for the purpose of settling Americans here. The reason for that is because they're already thinking about the future and how, they've already exacted the overthrow. They're in control of the government, but they need to figure out a way to continue to control this government. They were really worried about the Asian population, right? Asian population was not able to, all these Japanese people and Chinese people that they brought over for the plantations are not able to vote because they're not citizens. However, their children, once they have children here, would be able to. And they very quickly realized that they needed to build up the American population, build up the constituency of people who would be like-minded. And so what happens is after they change the land laws, they start sending letters and articles. Remember, Lauren Thurston is a newspaper man, and he's part of this. He's one of these insurgents, right? So he sends all of these newspapers all across the continent. And you can go on Chronicling America and actually look for that. It's all over the United States. Sending these articles saying, Hawaii has public land for sale. Really, really cheap. Don't you want to move over here? It's so beautiful here. Anything grows here. We're going to give you land really cheap. You'll be able to farm, and then you'll be able to live here. And all you have to do is write us, and we'll let you know how to do this. And so this results in a flood of letters coming into the archives. Go to the state archives, they're all there, hundreds and hundreds of them. People writing in from all over the place, from Boston, from Minnesota. None of these people are farmers. Many of them are business people, right? Which kind of makes me think they were maybe about land speculation. That's what I think. Anyway, this results in these 2,200 acres being given to these American people by virtue of this, by way of this sort of scheme that they came up with called settlement associations. You could, if you had a plot of 35 parcels, and I said, okay, I'm going to form a settlement association, and I picked 34 of my friends, and that was accepted by the government, then I had first dibs. All the people in my association were the only ones that could settle there. And so this is how they end up settling only Americans in this entire Ahupua'a, right? These lots were 30 to 50 acres apiece. They've now been subdivided into, when I overlay the old homestead map onto the TMK currently, some of these lots are down to about 4,000 square feet. Okay, and when about 2 years ago, I looked up some recent open land transactions and found a quarter acre that had sold for $400,000. So think about how much money was made by these original homestead owners, okay? But to continue the story, sorry, they get the land, they come here, they get the land, they build the fence, they build the house. They say that you have to plant a certain number of trees on the property. I think it's like 10 trees per acre. So that's a lot of trees, except that, that's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, wait. So they were doing agriculture, but no, it included shade trees. Anybody know what haiku looks like? Lots of trees, right? So they could count any of the trees that were already there as agriculture. It takes them 3 years to get their fee simple ownership. They get the fee simple ownership and immediately turn around and say, you know what, we don't really like farming, but they've got the ownership of the land. And this is the story of this place. You know, and I'm just like, how could this happen and I not know about it? Or maybe not even me, but the fact that my kumu didn't know about it, like that freaked me out, right? How does this happen? This fact of erasure, I think, is so this historical erasure is purposeful, right? And so I've now taken this research and I'm in my PhD program and I'm extending it so that I can take a look at the broader implications, because this was just one homestead. These homesteads happened all over Hawaii, on every single island, in numerous places. There were some areas that looks like Hawaiian people were able to use that same system and form settlement associations. But then I've also found that there were lots of petitions filed because they were charging more than double for crappier land than they did these people in Hamakualoa for first-class agricultural land. So this whole scheme, right? I feel like nobody's really talked about the territorial period. We know it was bad. Willie talked about that, right? We know it was bad. We can tell it was bad. How do we know? The state of our people, right? The state of our people. We're on the very bottom of the socioeconomic scale, no matter what you're talking about. Home ownership, right? Drug use, prison, incarceration rates, all of that. But the story that I really think is important to tell is that this was a purposeful thing. We didn't end up here by accident, right? We didn't end up here by accident. We ended up here because it was purposeful. Our history was erased on purpose. Many times I have students like, Kumu, how did this happen? How come I never knew this? I'm like, well, let's think about this. If you went to public school, what kind of textbooks you used? Who writes those textbooks, right? It's really, I think, really important to sort of uncover all of this heva that was done to us. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's really difficult for me to be in the archives. I've gone to the archives, of course, in Honolulu a lot, but also in Maryland, in Washington, D.C., San Francisco, Aotearoa, right, all over the place. And what I find is that they were so arrogant that they wrote everything down. It's really, really difficult. After about 4 hours, I'm ready to either burst out into tears or punch something. So that's like kind of my threshold. I cannot do any more archival research after about 4 hours. But I think it's important for us to understand what happened during this territorial period. It'll help us, I think, better contextualize how things happen and what we need to change so that we can bring it back to the thriving people that we were, right? We need to understand this history even though it is super eha and super gnarly. I think it's really, really important because it's a first step toward getting back what was taken from us. Okay, so now I think the other message that I really thought was important today is that a couple of things. First off, the way that I define improvement or change for the better is how much movement or how much change I see over a short period of time. And I'm old enough, you can tell. I'm old enough to have been around for when Kawelau was still being bombed, right? Old enough to remember when Hokulea, people didn't believe that Hokulea, the first journey of Hokulea, could ever happen. And I think about that, and I think about where we are now. I think about the Department of Interior hearings, and being at those hearings and seeing people that very obviously had never testified for anything in their lives, seeing Kupuna go up and say that they understood that we were an independent nation and that they're asserting that right. That, to me, was so powerful. When I get discouraged, those are the things I think about. I think about Mauna Kea, right? How quickly, how many people just jumped on planes to go over there? How many people just threw themselves into everything from printing T-shirts and making stickers and just talking about the issue, right? I mean, I think that this, to me, shows that we have changed a lot. Our people are waking up. And I'm going to tell you right now, there's a lot of people that are unhappy about that, right? And we see the evidence of that every single day. But we come from people like Timoteo Ha'alilio. There is no stopping us now. There's no stopping us. And to me, that gives me hope. That gives me hope. That gives me a sense of kuleana. And the other thing that I really, really wanted to impress upon everybody here is that sometimes I feel like my contributions toward our lahui are not enough. But what I've come to realize is that no matter who you are, no matter who I am, no matter who we all are, we all have a role in this. And whether that means that you're up on the Mauna getting arrested, Kalekoa, just kidding, or you are, in front of the press down at the BLNR headquarters talking about TMT, or if this means that you are learning how to ku'ikalo. Does it mean that you start to use words like occupation? Does it mean that we start to not call America the mainland, right? We don't all have to do all of these things. But if all of us just did one or two of these things, the amount of change that would be exacted is amazing. And I already see that change happening, right? I can't help but believe that the future is bright. I cannot help but see that the future is bright. Now, don't get me wrong. UH Manoa is still a very racist institution. There is completely institutional racism that goes on every day there. I mean, I have to argue with my professors all the time about my viewpoints. I feel like I have to sort of go the extra 10 miles compared to people who are not researching things in Hawaii, because my professors don't know anything about Hawaii. and yet they're supposed to be advising me and stuff. So I'm not going to say it's easy, but I will say that the amount of faculty now that we are gaining that are Hawaiian, that are able to quantify the fact that our knowledge bases were solid. And guess what? They're still there. They're still there. I cannot help but believe that the future is bright. And I would just really encourage all of us to think about what can we do, right? Whether it's starting to use Hawaiian words to your children, your mo'opuna even, right? Just imparting those cultural ways, dancing hula. There's so many things that you can do. But we all have a part in this, and I just really, really want to encourage everyone to find your kuleana and own it. And get educated. Doesn't mean you have to come to the university. Doesn't mean. Nowadays, I mean, all you have to do is go talk to Keamoku, right? Up there, about kuleana lands. Talk to the ku'e petition folks, right? There's lots that we can learn. Lots that we can learn. Okay, so with that, I'm going to say mahalo again to the organizers. Aloha ya. Oko pakahia pau.
You know, I used to get in trouble when I was at Baldwin because I said Baldwin should change its name to a Hawaiian name. Oh, big trouble. And you know, the mascots, they never fit us, yeah? Anybody seen a bear lately on Maui? Anybody seen a sword someplace? You know, so anyway, you can get in big trouble, but it's fun to challenge the mind, and that's what we should do.